Today, I'm going to give you an overview of 60 years in 60 minutes. We will share many moments of memories together. So why did Shari ask me to do this? Well, I have been working on an archive project for the temple, especially for the 60th anniversary, and I have been collecting things from every department, and then they dumped a big box of stuff, and they said, here, this is the archive stuff we have. So, some of what you see outside there are some of the things that I helped organize and put in some semblance of order. I'm sure in every nook and cranny of all these buildings there are other things that I am going to have to be a better detective and find more of those things. In addition to that, I have really been part of the professional staff and been here for 40 years. And for that, I have to thank my mentor and a longtime friend, Rabbi Baumgard, who brought me to Beth Am. Whether you're long-time or recent members, we all have our stories about our experiences at Beth Am. Some are very personal, and some are with the community. As we look around the room, many of you will remember special times together, sharing simchas and comforting each other also at sad moments. Now, the person in the room who has been with us from the very beginning to guide us, to teach us, to comfort us is Rabbi Baumgard. And I am going to ask him after certain sections of comments that I make to add some of his comments as well as you. I'm going to take a little pause as we go through the different ages and stages. So that's my plan, and these are the ages and stages. I'll share some of the comments representing the different decades and ages and the history, and after each period I will pause for the comments. So that'll be first the earliest years, 1955 to 1960, and I know we have some people here who were some of those pioneer people. The special years of growth during the 60s and the 70s. The impact of the day school on the total congregation in the 70s and 80s. The transition years. Beginning in 87 to 95, and then the new directions, the Bookman years, 95 to 2015. So it's been such a pleasure for me to do this. Of course, you all know I love history, and it's been really wonderful experience for me to be part of this project. Now, as I said, this is an overview, and I will not be able to name all the people who made it happen, or else I'll be in trouble because I might forget somebody. But there is a book, as Shari said, that is being prepared for the 60th anniversary in April. So let's begin. A celebration of 60 years of innovative leadership, commitment to community, and linking ourselves to the continuity of the Jewish people and Judaism. The story of the growth and development of Temple Beth Am is an inspiring story of leadership, loyalty, and love. It includes the several stages of special innovative ideas and programs about first discussing what kind of a community the membership wanted to build for the generations. The early years. The greater Miami area was expanding during this time, and the South Dade County area especially was attracting many Jewish families. A group of young families, 13, gathered to explore the idea of establishing a community center for the adults and providing Jewish education for their children. After several gatherings, they established the South Dade Jewish Center. And in September 1955, I'm told from various documents, I wasn't there, a group of 100 members elected officers and approved a constitution. Now, one document says 100, another document says 125, so about. I'm going to say about. In October of 1955, the first Hebrew classes began with 17 students, and Billy Diamond, Billy Diamond was the person who was in charge of that. And the religious school meetings and classes at first were held in local churches and public buildings. I'm not going to list every single one. And places, meeting places. The religious school, however, opened in the fall of 1955 with 155 students. Wow, that's pretty good for the first opening of a religious school. And that religious school was under the direction of Stephanie's mother, Lillian Ross, who was our very first religious school principal. Okay, and they were meeting at the University of Miami. And I have in the office a whole collection of pictures of each grade that they took class pictures. So if you had kids here in 1955, 56, 57, until we were finally in the building, they were meeting at the University of Miami, and the pictures are really funny to see, but I couldn't put all of them out here. But I did recognize some people, and Stephanie, I found you in there with your class. Okay. The lay leadership immediately turned its attention to find land for permanent location. With great foresight, those are my words, I don't know if they thought it was great foresight, but I think it was. They purchased 7.5 acres on Kendall Drive, the road to nowhere. And there was nothing here, nothing, no homes. Imagine, you have to imagine, just almost a semi-dirt road, and with nothing here except maybe the mango trees or the olive trees and the avocado trees, not the olive trees. Those are in Israel. Okay. Soon after, the group decided to become affiliated with the Reform movement, the Union of American Hebrew Congregations. That was what it was called at those times. There was a little division because there were some people who wanted to go the conservative path. There were others who wanted to be with the Reform movement, and there were others who just wanted to join the bowling league. And there was a bowling league, believe it or not. Okay. At the same time, around the same time, Rabbi Baumgard was the regional director for the union, and he was assisting them. He became their part-time rabbi and led high holiday services for them in the fall of 1956, and I believe that was at the University of Miami, Rabbi? I think at the University of Miami, in Beaumont Hall. The beginning building on the land was in 1958 with the first social hall. That building really became the gathering place. And by Rosh Hashanah, services were held on that site. Another major change happened that year. South Dade Jewish Center changed its name to Temple Beth Am. Rabbi Baumgard became the full-time rabbi beginning in the fall of 1959. The first school building was completed and the preschool and religious school classes were now on the campus by 1959. Wow, from 55 to 59, they accomplished so much in such a short time. And I'm going to take a pause for a minute, and I'm going to ask Rabbi Baumgard, let's see, I think I can get this out of here. Thank you. Someone help me with this. She has another microphone. Rabbi Baumgard, I'm going to pause after each decade. So, Rabbi Baumgard.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for the introduction. First, let me say how good it is to see so many of you, many of whom I remember very simply and warmly. So I'm delighted to be here and to be able to see you and for some of you, kiss it. Now, as Ms. Kipper was speaking, and she has done an awful lot, as you can tell by what she's presenting to you. She did a great deal in the day school, and there's a little history there, and I'll tell you that, and then we'll go on. I knew that she had a rich background in Judaism, and we were starting a day school, which happened by chance, by the way. I'll tell that story later. In the first year of the day school, we saw that there was not a great deal of Jewish enrichment. It was just a good school. So we needed somebody to handle the Jewish enrichment. And I thought that person would be the lady who was speaking so eloquently. And I asked her to come to Beth Am. Unfortunately, the principal of the day school was not so much interested in the Jewish enrichment. She was interested in the school. But some of us had other ideas. So our speaker was the person we invited to do that part of the day school program. However, as the first year went on, the principal really didn't get along quite well with our speaker because she really didn't want any Jewish enrichment. So she was released from duty. Mrs. Kipper. And that was a sad moment for in the history of the day school. However, it was immediately seen that the day school was impoverished by the lack of somebody who had a depth of background in Jewish history and customs and so forth. So we were able to convince the principal that Mrs. Kipper should come back. And she did, and it was
very fortunate for the temple and the day school, and for other aspects of the temple, because she could do things like what she's doing here today, which is taking over a study of the history. Now we go back to the early moments. I was here in Miami as the director of the South Florida Federation of Reform Synagogues. My office was downtown, and I had agreed that I would take one of the newer congregations, because there were 3 new congregations in Miami, that I would take one part-time. Of course, there is no such thing as a part-time rabbi, but so I was, quote, part-time, quote, at the South Day Jewish Center, and part-time in my office downtown. As time went on, we were looking for places for our congregation to hold services. And we did hold them at the University of Miami. There's a classroom. And our religious school, which was started by lay people, William Ross and Billy Diamond, was in need of a place to meet. We were able to get the UN to lend us rooms for the children to go to religious school. So we always said that our children went to college before they went to elementary school. This incident was also interesting. On Friday night, we had a pretty good attendance, but we didn't have a great attendance. And why? The people said because the University of Miami football team plays its games on this night and regularly, and we have to travel to go to the game. So I said, do you mean to say that if we got a bus to take you to the ball game, that you would come to a service that we would schedule afterwards? They said yes. So they had a lovely idea of having a bus to take them to the game. Well, we got such a bus, and the driver was from amongst our people, and they went to the game, and attendance soared. All because of the rabbi, of course, but also because of the bus and the football game. So there are interesting things about type in our history. So we had 2 services now on Friday night, one at the usual time, about 8 o'clock, and then one after the game. I didn't mind conducting 2 services. I was anxious to get people to come to services. And so we succeeded in that day by the bus. And that was one of the interesting things. Now, I'm being told that I should shut up.
I would never say that to you. Take a breath and take a pause. That will come back. promised 60 years and 60 minutes, so we kind of have to look a little bit forward. Okay. I know that there are some people here from those early years, from 55 to 60. Raise your hand if you're from 55 to 60. How about that? Isn't this marvelous? I especially want to thank Molly Grad, who helped me from the very beginning when I started this project to identify some people in some pictures. Thank you, Molly. Okay, the 60s and the 70s. The congregation grew in numbers and in activities. Many committees were formed. Sisterhood, brotherhood were established. The choir under Lenore Baumgard played an important role at holiday and weekly services. The religious school grew to over 700 students. That's just religious school, okay? In the 60s and the 70s. We also mentioned we had a bowling league and we had a drama group. They used to put on theater groups and things like that. Maybe some of you participated in that. There was now really a need to increase the building program. In January of 1962, the congregation approved plans to build the sanctuary. Remember, right now all we have is the original social hall, which is now the gym over there. A new school wing and the youth hall, which is no longer here because this building is here now. Okay, lots of wonderful memories with that youth hall. That was all completed by January 1964, and that was the time of the dedication of the new sanctuary. It truly became a center for Jewish community life, a house for the people, addressing all of the interests for all of the ages. A special forum series was planned by the Adult Education Committee, bringing outstanding national speakers to the community, some political, some on a variety of subjects, but would bring many, many people open to the public and bring many people here. The Social Action Committee, which is now called the Tikkun Olam Committee, began to involve congregants in activities for tzedakah, concerns of national and local issues, and Rabbi Baumgard again played a significant role in engaging the congregation in interfaith meetings. The dedication and commitment of the lay leadership during this stage continued to ensure that the temple was stable and secure, and that the membership, now over 750, would provide significant service. These years laid the foundation for the future, and it was also a time for bringing in an assistant rabbi. And I believe Arthur Steinberg, Rabbi Steinberg, in 1968, came in to be Rabbi Baumgard's assistant. Okay. I'm going to ask for just a few comments from anybody over who was here during those years in the 60s and the 70s. And Edie, I'll wait until we get to the next part about the baseball. Anybody from the 60s and the 70s that wants to share something back there?
Good afternoon, I'm Judith Klein. I was married to Bobby Klein, one of the Klein boys, and Evelyn Klein was Rabbi Baumgard. My mother-in-law was Rabbi Baumgard's secretary for 9 years. I taught in the religious school starting in 1969, and I taught kindergarten, and we taught on Saturday and Sunday, and I had 18 kids on Saturday and 18 kids on Sunday. At kindergarten, I taught them the joys of Judaism, and it was a delight. I was married here in January 1965. The sanctuary was brand new, and Rabbi Baumgard, I'd like him to listen, I was 18. I really would. Anyhow, I was 18 and he kindled the spark that was in me. I met with him before I got married. And so I've been a member since 1965, January.
I was very, okay, there's another person who wanted to, and also I definitely, because I didn't forget, I have it down here. Go ahead.
Steve Schwartzman. I want to thank this gentleman, Rabbi Baumgard. For those of you who've been here a long time, thank you for not fixing the bullet holes in the stained glass window. Because where we live today, and the hatred, I remember that as a child. So I'll always be very grateful to this man. And you're welcome. Obviously, I'm not going to tell the story if you want to, please.
And his mother, Joan Schwartzman. Joan Schwartzman was Rabbi Baumgard's right hand, and she just knew anybody and everybody, and she used to make little plays and songs, and she just knew all about all of us, and she was so straight. She would just tell it to you straight.
Still is.
My wife Marcia and I came here in '62, and it was Joan Schwartzman that made us join this congregation. During the time that I was president, it was the silver anniversary of the temple, so it was only appropriate that Bill Silver would be the president. We were looking for somebody by the name of Gold to take over after that. Since that passed, we'll go on to the 60th, and I'm sure many, many more years. I think I would like to note that at the time that I was president, it was a congregation of almost 1,700 members. It was quite a large congregation at that time.
Wait, I didn't get to that page.
Hi, I'm Karen Wilder, my husband Gene, and I'm sitting here thinking, should I say this? And I must say this. When we first joined the temple, we were young. We had a house that we just got, and we got into some financial, business difficulties. And we had joined the temple, and I made an appointment with Rabbi Baumgard, and I went to his office, and this was a scary thing for me. I was young. And there he sat behind his desk. And I said, I have to ask you, I said, we've really run into a couple, some really financial difficulties in business, and I don't think we can belong to the temple anymore. And he said to me, well, just pay what you can, it'll be fine. And I said, no, you don't understand. We can't pay anything. I said, the only thing I want to ask of you is if our kids can stay in religious school. And it's not for us, it's for the kids. And he said to me, and this is my heart forever, he said to me, well, why wouldn't you ask for you? He said, of course you're a member. And you're a member in good standing, and your whole family is a member. It's not for the children. It's for all of you. And you will have tickets on the high holidays. And I was like, wow, because I was like, so, like, I wouldn't be able to be in. And he said, just go see Joe Schwartzman. So and Joe Schwartzman is like, love you. And she was just like, Rabbi Baumgard was the head, Joe Schwartzman was the heart. Together, we got through it, and then after that, we made it up by joining Committee of 100 and continually trying to give as much as we can back to a community that loved us when we needed it. So, thank you.
I had just moved back to Miami with my husband, and we had three girls. And I saw an ad in the paper, and it said that there was a Slichos service at Temple Beth Am. And I said, Al, I've never been to a Slichos service, let's go. We went, and who was at the door but Ben Klein? Ben Klein had worked my father for 8 years as his right-hand man. And he said, oh, you have to join this temple. Don't even think about it, you're joining it. And then, of course, when we came to the office, Joe Schwartzman went to Miami High with me. So I felt very home with her. And of course, Rabbi Baumgard's wonderful wife was always very involved with the temple, with the music. I think she was his secretary at the beginning. And everybody was very, very welcoming. And as a result, we joined the temple. It's been many, many years. We have 4 daughters who went to Sunday school. What was the class that you went after Sunday school? Confirmation class. And they were all married by Rabbi Baumgard. And this is my second home. And my daughter Diana is with me today. Young blood. And Temple Beth Am has been a wonderful part of our life. We also started Havara Ahad, which was Havara number 1. And it's been a great part of our life. And I still come here very often, sometimes 2-3 times a week.
I'm going to move on to the next period of time. And in the 70s and the early 80s, the successful preschool, which had already started, encouraged families to ask for an extension for primary grades. Although the UAHC, as well as some of the Beth Am leaders, were hesitant about starting the day school program since there was no Reform day school movement, Rabbi Baumgard spoke and wrote on behalf of starting an elementary day school and convinced the temple board to approve the idea and to budget for it. Now, the big distinction was that this day school was not going to be in a model of the traditional day school where you had a half a day of secular studies and a half a day of Jewish studies. It was going to be what we call the integrated day. And that is what, of course, dear to my heart. And upon returning, I didn't know he was going to tell that story. But upon returning from Israel in 1975, when I came back to Temple Beth Am, one of my big responsibility was to create this integrated curriculum. And at that time, we were serving as a role model for other new schools that wanted to get started in Atlanta, in North Miami Beach, in Boston, and in many places in Houston. They would come here to come and see what we were creating because nobody had really done that kind of a day school. Well, we were one of the first 2 with Road of Shalom in New York City, and our year by year the school increased in numbers and led by our dedicated professionals. I'm not going to go through all the names because I know I'll be in trouble. Sam Lesser, followed by Seal Kuhnen, who became the director with the urging of Rabbi Baumgard, and Sandy Kramer, who was the preschool director, and myself as the Judaic Studies director, and Marlene Price as the administrative assistant director. We were the leadership team of the day school until at least 2000 and plus a few more years after that. Parents became active leaders. I want to say that parents became active leaders in the temple. In fact, and this is something I always used to say as I was going around the country encouraging other communities, 5 of our future presidents of the temple, more than 5, were started with the day school and became presidents of the temple. And so the positive impact that the day school had on the total congregation is wonderful, And I have to tell you, there are people here now who were students in the day school who are now sending their children here to the day school. As we always say here, from generation to generation, that's what we created. At the same time, religious school was expanding, and the temple at one point had 80 confirmands and 600 students in the day school, K through 6. At that time, we had 6th grade. The building committee realized there was a need for more facilities, and the library, chapel, a teenage building was then built and constructed and completed, as well as the Learning Center by 1980. During this time, various assistant rabbis added their unique talents and ideas to all of our programs. The Adult Education Committee and program expanded to develop on Wednesday nights what we call the Institute for Jewish Studies. Multiple classes were held on Wednesday night, and we invited our own staff as well as leaders in the community to come and be our teachers. And some nights we could certainly have 80 to 100 people here attending classes. And that was my dream and the committee's dream, and I don't know if there's anyone in the room who was with us in those very early years as part of the committee, but we really worked hard to get that going. We also started in 1985 the Adult B'nai Mitzvah class, and Rabbi Simon was the person who initiated that, and he asked me to be with him on that. At the time I was teaching Hebrew from scratch, lots of years, like from 75 forward. And then he came along and he said, well, let's take it the next step forward. And we did. And we had, I think, about 20 people in the first class, 1985. And I know Judith was in that class. And I don't know, you were in that, oh, right, there we go, 88, okay. And we had a lot of people here. Who raised your hand if you've been alumni of the Adult B'nai Mitzvah class? All right, cool, okay. In over 20 years, we've had over 200 students in that class, and it increases now under new leadership with, obviously it was one of my pet projects, but it continued under leadership with Cantor Siegel, and then now I believe the two rabbis who are here, Rabbi Greengrass and Rabbi Kempler, are continuing that tradition. This was a fabulous period of time. All I can tell you is this is the period of time when we did reach at our pinnacle, 1,800 family units, as Bill said, as Bill mentioned to you, Bill Silver. Okay. Well, what can we say? We had so many, who made this all happen? It was just wonderful. We had so many professionals and lay leaders who were devoted. But then there came a time in 1987 when Rabbi Baumgard became Rabbi Emeritus. And for those of us who were here for a very long period of time and who worked with him all of those years, because he brought us here to work with him, it was a difficult time and a difficult transition. And on a personal note, again, I want to just say that the opportunities that he gave me and others was just wonderful. One of the outstanding qualities, and I know, he's kind of shy about it, he never took full credit for all of our achievements. He always, always shared the limelight with the people that he had delegated to do the job. And Rabbi, all of us were very appreciative of your recognition of all of our efforts. And this is not even a session that is honoring Rabbi Baumgard. Under his leadership, along with the many well-trained professionals and lay leaders, the temple had achieved so much. And it took several years of transition with two other rabbis who also contributed new ideas before the lay leadership found the next right match, the next visionary rabbi, Rabbi Gottman. In the meantime, the lay leaders and the professionals maintain the high standards of excellence for all the departments, the day school, the preschool, the religious school, adult education, and everything else. During these transition years, and I see she left the room, Cantor Rochelle Nelson became a full member of the clergy team in 1991. Her special musical talents brought a new level of liturgical music to the prayer services. She introduced modern Jewish music and instrumental additions to the prayer experiences. And she also introduced chanting Torah for the bar and bat mitzvah. Cantor Nelson, in partnership with the rabbis, has been a part of the congregational life for over 25 years, on the pulpit, in the schools, life cycle events, and special musical programs. Now, she was not the only one who added so much to the musical life of Temple Beth Am. Okay? In the early days, we had a person like Harriet Potluck, who established the Beth Americans and the Troubadours. Later on, we always had Susan Shane Linder, who was always right there with us. Even today, she comes back, I think, on the high holidays to lead the children's services. We had Jackie Burney. At first, she was a classroom teacher. First, she started as a classroom teacher, because I said to her when she graduated college and with a teaching degree, I said, don't go to the public schools, come and see what we're doing here, okay? So she did, and she took a couple, then she had to take time off to have her children. But when she came back, she took over to be the music person, the musical leader for the day school. But we also had Patty Sachs, who was always with us from the preschool. And I encouraged another person, another song leader, who was doing some work in another congregation, and I said, why don't you come and be with us? She knocked on my door, and I said, I think this is going to be great, okay. And her name is Lisa Siegel. And Lisa Siegel especially worked with the Hebrew teachers and with other aspects of the congregation. And as you all know, I'm not going to give her bio now. As you all know, she now is a full-fledged cantor at Temple Beth Am on Miami Beach. And Lisa, it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. Now, we have a few, I have a closure here about the Rabbi Bookman years, but I want to take a little pause. Maybe Edie, you'd like to say something maybe about the early years of the day school?
Serving on the board, if I would take over the chairmanship of the school board. And at that time, the day school, the Hebrew school, and the religious school were all combined. So we took over that particular entity and started organizing how we wanted these schools to progress. But the one thing I really want to say about the day school is that the integrated program was phenomenal because the children learned as they were studying their various areas. When they studied history, they not only studied world history, they studied Jewish history. When they studied literature, they studied Jewish authors. When they studied science, they studied Jewish scientists, etc., etc. The kids were not graded. They did not get grades. They were taught to love to learn. And that's what these little kids did. That's why our children were so successful. It was a phenomenal.
And she was a great chairperson. She gave us so much support. Okay, I don't want to pass out of the period of the 80s without also recognizing that we still had a choir led by Selma Baumgard. And I know we have some people in the room who were in that choir. Bernice, okay, Bernice Stanford. And Doreen Marks, and there's a picture up there. And they added so much. This was all before Cantor Nelson came to the congregation and before Rabbi Baumgard retired. Now, what some of you may not know, well, some of you do know, that Doreen Marks started Sunday afternoon music programs here. And not only for the adults, but also for the children. And that continued on and on and on, and finally she had to move to the University of Miami there, to Gusman Hall. And only this past June did she retire from that wonderful contribution she's made to the cultural life of our community.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you, but my husband was a very integral part of this collaboration, and I could not possibly have done anything without him. But also having the mic at this moment, I just would like to say thank you to you, Lenore, because I was one of those students who took Hebrew by scratch, or from scratch, and every time I go to services, I think of those days in your classroom, learning Hebrew. And I cannot thank you enough, and I know that many, many souls out there send you their gratitude for learning our wonderful ancient language. So thank you.
Well, and Rabbi Baumgard.
Right.
Have a quick minute for Rabbi, another story?
Yes, we are going to have a quick,
It's just when we started doing the series in 1981, we did it for nothing, because I didn't have to charge anything.
I thought the temple shouldn't charge, but you needed to charge because you needed to pay your artists. So there was the first, Byron, help me.
There was a quartet from the...
Oh yeah, there was a quartet from the first Florida Philharmonic Orchestra, and we paid them $500. And the very first event was with a woman with the name of Miriam Cohen. And we brought in an antique Judaica from the Mariah Gallery on Madison Avenue in New York City. And unfortunately, the first concert was so very, very good that we decided to have another one. And I went to bookkeeping, and bookkeeping said, well, you can't have another concert because the $500 covered the insurance for the Mariah arm. So I said, well, we can't renege on 4 musicians that were coming to the second concert that we had planned, because the rabbi said, if the first one went so well, why not have another one? So I said, well, you can't renege on musicians, particularly 2 of them were Russian refugees. So Rabbi said, charge. He didn't know, but I already had the tickets printed. And he said, pass them out to the members of the committee, which we did. The second one was very, very good. And the Sunday afternoons of music, Rabbi, is all your fault.
Okay, I only have 10 more minutes to finish my 60 years. Okay. Rabbi Bookman was selected to be the senior rabbi in 1995. The Bookman years brought new excitement and enthusiasm as he and the lay leaders worked together to create new innovative ideas and programs. He appreciated all that had been developed in past years, yet he understood that after the transition years, there was a need to restructure the roles of the partnership between lay leaders and professionals. He re-energized the loyal professionals that were part of the staff and began to attract new people to bring new energy and ideas. So this combination of building on the programs of the past and bringing a renewed vision and mission for the future brought us to what Temple Beth Am is today. One of the most important accomplishments was the building of this new campus as we see it now. Rabbi Bookman's leadership for 20 years has created an atmosphere of community and collaboration. The campus is really, truly a home for our Jewish heritage. There are far too many things to list here about the results of the past 20 years. Visit the website, view the historical video, review the commentators. We have some from the very earliest years, and we have all of them from more recent years. This overview certainly does not give every detail of 60 years, but in the scheme of things, all of us who were here, lay leaders and professionals, we're trying to develop a Kehillah Kadosha, a sacred community, There are many lifelong families that have supported the temple, and we are blessed to see so many that are here from generation to generation. Their leadership, their loyalty, and love for the temple continues on and on. As Shari mentioned, a book of the history of Beth Am is being published in honor of the 60th anniversary. And by the way, whoever got one of these in 1968, this was the bar mitzvah year. I want to tell you what a pleasure it was for me to read this. I wasn't here at Temple Beth Am in 68, but it was very inspiring. You could tell the people who wrote this booklet, their enthusiasm, their love for the temple, and their joy is embedded on every page of this booklet. So we do have this in the archives now, so I'll put it on the table and maybe some of you might want to look through it. Also, don't worry, Rabbi, you're going to have the last word. We have a little bit of the overview for you of some of the things that I've mentioned today. Shari will be able to pass them out to you and hand that out to you. So who are the people who made this happen? I wish I do have a list, but I'm not going to read the list. But I do want to tell you, we have to, in full gratitude, thank the first 13 families. And I think Molly was one of those families, right? And Solomon family, right? Everybody else here was one of the first 13. Thank you so much for being here. The presidents and the boards, and Rabbi Baumgard and Selma, and all of the assistant rabbis and clergies that we have had all of these years. All of the educators, starting with Lillian Ross and Billy Diamond. All the administrators, some left us quickly and some stayed for a long time. Some of you who might know that history will know what I'm saying. The wonderful musical staff that we have had here, and the library staff, beginning with Margot Berman and now Etta Gold. The program leadership that is now in the capable hands of Karen Sobel, but what you may have forgotten is Shari started out as being the program director. The youth group directors that we've had, and all of you who have been so loyal and who have been so committed to Jewish life, not just the temple, but to Jewish life. All of you are the people who made it happen. Rabbi.
I don't know at this point what you'd like me to do, because I have 5,000 stories.
Well, that's not in my 60 60 minutes, that's the next 60 minutes if you're on their stories.
I just don't know what kind of time you want me to take.
Well, Rabbi, if you can give us a closing thought,
A closing thought.
and then people can come and hear some more stories from you.
I'll give you a thought. This congregation is a different kind of congregation, and it is so because the programming has been varied and a program of quality, real quality. The reason we got so many children in the religious school was that we had a good religious school. And we concentrated on education. We used some of the principles of business in getting the religious school into tip-top shape. We had so many students, at one point we had 1,800 students. We would have several classes in each grade. I would meet with the teachers quarterly and ask now, where have we done well? Where did we succeed? And where did we go wrong? Let's admit our mistakes and errors and change those things. And let's take advantage of what we did correctly and build on that. So with these principles of constantly reviewing what was going on in the school and changing the things that were wrong, and every school had problems like that. By being self-critical, people ask me, why is your school so successful? And the answer is, we were not afraid to admit where we made mistakes and errors. And ours became the only reform religious school in this area that was accredited by the national movement. And while we have a lot to thank Lenore for that, we also have to thank the people who founded that school, like William Ross and Billy Diamond, and the teachers who were dedicated. We had a wonderful staff. We even got a teacher that could teach Hasidism. I've tried for years to get somebody to do that. We finally succeeded. So that's just a capsule of how we've done things well. And I'll shut up at this point, because I now only have 4,900.
I want to say a few words. I am a person who is fortunate to serve as the president of this incredible congregation as we celebrate our 60th anniversary. And I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Rabbi Baumgard and to Lenore for sharing the history and the wisdom and the warmth and the love of our Beth Am community with all of us today. And it's truly a treat. I have had the pleasure of having conversations with many of you in this room who are the pioneers of our congregation, who laid the foundation of who and what we are today. And we are blessed. We are so very blessed. And I thank you. And Dr. Kipper, You are a gem, you are a treat, you are a delight. Thank you for bringing us I hope all of you will continue to celebrate our 60th anniversary with us. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.